Go ahead.
In 20 seconds.
Yeah, really.
Yep. Everyone, 20 seconds.
I think that's the date we picked, right? Pretty sure it's already in my calendar. Okay. Fire up get the squirrels running, cameras,
Yep.
turbines to speed. All the stuff.
But there will be.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This hearing before the New Britain Township Zoning Hearing Board is called to order. Preparation for business this evening. I ask everyone to place your silence your cell phones and place them in do not disturb mode. For your information, like this in all township meetings nowadays, this is being recorded and shared via virtual meeting. Cameras over our heads over there. Some introductions, get started. To my right is Ryan Gaiman. He is the Assistant Zoning and Planning Officer. Followed by TJ Walsh, he's a solicitor for the Zoning Hearing Board. Kathy Vasili is a member of the Zoning Hearing Board. Scott Fisher is a member of the zoning hearing board. Brian Wants is alternate for the zoning hearing board, and our stenographer tonight is Jeannie. I always get that wrong. It's the
Go by one name.
clause. Little housekeeping. The Britain Township Zoning Hearing Board is a quasi judicial body required by the statute of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and created by the New Britain Township Board of Supervisors. This board is chartered with a single responsibility to provide due process to the citizens of New Britain Township to appeal zoning and engineering decisions made by the township. Zoning ordinance was created and is maintained by the New Britain Township Board of Supervisors. This zoning hearing board has no jurisdiction over the contents of the zoning ordinance. We ask that any concerns regarding the contents of the zoning ordinance be directed to the Board of Supervisors. The procedures for tonight's hearing shall be as follows. Procedure shall be conducted in a manner similar to that of a court hearing, and all testimony shall be recorded by our stenographer. All affected parties shall have an opportunity to present factual testimony this evening, and all testimony must be given under oath. Only the facts and testimony presented to the board during this hearing will be considered. The board will first hear the applicant's presentation of their case. The board expects the applicant to state the unnecessary hardship, how the proposal will not be detrimental to the public welfare, and any other grounds the applicant believes support the application. The board will also hear from any other individuals who wish to become parties to this hearing, or on that later. After the testimony is concluded, the board will hear from anyone who simply wishes to make a statement or ask a question that is relevant to the hearing. Depending on the length of the hearing, the board may or may not make a decision on the application or applications this evening. Our first hearing this evening, actually, I'll just let you talk about the Britain Boulevard.
Oh, okay. Is there anyone here for the 180 New Britain Boulevard application? Okay, that matter was actually reopened again at the April 20th hearing. It was continued on the record to tonight's hearing, May 18th,
Yep.
and it's going to be continued again on the record to June 22nd.
Okay. That said, our second matter for the evening will be the application for 205 Poplar Road. Mr. Damon, will you please read the public notice and place the application on record?
Please take notice that the New Britain Township Zoning Hearing Board will hold a public hearing Thursday, May 18th, 2023 at 7 p.m. at the New Britain Township Municipal Building, 207 Park Avenue, Chalfont, PA, to consider the following applications and/or appeals. The application of Mark Snavely for the property located at 205 Poplar Road, New Britain Township, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, identified as tax map parcel number 262828. The property is located in the RR residential zoning district. The property is improved with a detached single-family residential dwelling developed as part of a cluster subdivision, use B2. The applicant proposes to construct a roof cover over an existing open deck. The applicant seeks a variance from New Britain Township Zoning Ordinance Section 27903A to permit a rear yard setback of 22 feet 6 inches, where the required minimum rear yard setback is 40 feet.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Walsh, will you please read the board exhibits?
Those are as follows. Exhibit B1 is the application. Included with the application was the current deed dated January 29th, 1992, and a list of surrounding property owners. Exhibit B2 is a collective exhibit consisting of a hand-drawn site plan, an aerial photo that also has hand-drawn dimensions on it, and floor plans. Exhibit B3 is a letter to the intelligencer forwarding public notice for this hearing. Exhibit B4 is the public notice that was just read into the record. Exhibit B5 is proof that the notice was published in the May 4th and the May 11th editions of the Intelligencer. Exhibit B6, the letter of the applicant providing the notice of this hearing. Exhibit B7 is the township's list and a map of property owners that are within 500 feet of the property that's the subject of the application. Exhibit B8 is an affidavit of mailing. The notice of this hearing was mailed to the property owners listed on Exhibit B7. That notice was mailed on May 8th, 2023 by Ryan Gaiman. Exhibit B9 is an affidavit of posting. The notice of this hearing was posted on the property. That notice was posted on May 10th, 2023 by Ryan Gaiman. And with that affidavit is a photo of the actual posting. Lastly, Exhibit B10 is Bucks County floodplain viewer aerial and map record of the property.
Thank you, sir. Who's here for 205 Poplar Road? And you are, first of all, you can come up to the table. And is there anyone here if you're here for 544 Airy Avenue? Okay. And 4272 Caroline Road? Okay. So is there anyone left who is here, who is not going to be presenting a case tonight? In other words, are you from the community? Okay. Shall we dispense?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just wanna make sure. Okay. That said, so we both be testifying?
Yes, yes, in my contract.
Fantastic. Will you be sworn, please?
Thank you. Both raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please state your name for the record.
Mark Snavely. Thomas Massett,
Please spell it, please.
MACCA.
Thank you.
Mr. Mazza, you said you're the contractor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, you can present your case.
My wife and I moved to Newport Township back in. Sorry. My wife and I moved to Newport Township back in January of 1992. I don't know exact year, but we had a deck constructed on the back of our house. And we used the deck primarily for entertaining. The reason for the shade, roof cover is to provide shade because the sun comes up in the backyard. It doesn't cross the house till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And there's a story tied into this, to my deck. 3 years ago, my wife passed from COVID in September of 2020. She always wanted a pontoon boat. We weren't able to buy a pontoon boat, or at least have one when we retired, because she passed away. So I had my deck stained gray bluish color, had a wooden sign made that hangs on the fence. And on her it said Connie's pontoon
I'm
boat.
sorry.
The sign hangs on the fence and it says Connie's pontoon boat. And I also bought a lighted palm tree because she got palm tree. The purpose of the roof cover is to entertain more with our family and our friends. More so than we can do now without that roof cover. Pretty simple, and the deck goes out 15 feet and the roof goes out 16 feet, I guess, yes. And it's the full width of the house.
So the 16 feet is just like the roof cantilever?
Or is it the eave that just hangs over?
Well, it extends from the house 16 feet out. So it's a foot overhang of the existing deck.
Mr. Snavely, sorry for your loss. Your house was built in 1984.
485, we moved in 92.
Okay, so you're the second owner of the house? And when the house was built, the back wall of the house is basically where it is now. Sorry. Looking at half of you on one side and half of the other. So the wall in the back of your house, not the deck, but the back of your house is that distance from that back wall has to the back of your property, the lot line, that hasn't changed.
No.
According to the plan you have submitted here, that distance is 38.5 feet.
I don't know, I can't see, I don't know exactly where my property line is in the back because I was told when I moved in, there's an easement that Newport Township owns behind all the houses. And it's supposedly paying $1 every 99 years to rent that easement, but now the township doesn't use that back of the house, back of those houses to get to the park.
Okay. Well, this drawing here that was submitted in the application, did you prepare this?
And actually the contract.
Yes. Oh, okay, Mr. Mazza, did you maybe just try to then address my question? Did you prepare this drawing?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't personally, I'm sorry. One of the girls from the office did.
Have you been out to the property?
I have not.
You have not.
I was
It's,
briefed on this.
so do you know who took these measurements?
Michael Fogey, the owner of the company.
But Michael is a business associate of yours?
Yes.
Right, and you've,
and he was at the property.
and he's been to the property.
Yes,
And that distance, Mr. Snavely, 38.5 feet, that sounds about right to you?
from the back of the house.
From the back wall, yeah.
I don't know the exact property line, because there's no markings or anything in the back of my house to show the end of the property.
Okay,
Because I have a shed that's actually beyond, not beyond that, but it's within 5 feet of,
so then I'll come back to the why I wanted to bring that up, but then if you're not 100% sure about the distance from the back wall to the property line, how are we then certain that the distance from the back of the deck to the back, to the rear property line is accurate as well, the 22.5 feet?
well, because I know when I had, I was told when I had the deck built, I couldn't go beyond 15 feet. As the maximum, plus I just measured. It was just measured recently, so I know it goes on 15 feet, that's it. Doesn't go beyond 15 feet
15 feet,
from the back of the house.
right? It adds up to 38. Right?
Right.
So is that where you got the distance? So then how do we, just so your record is clear, just the 22.5 feet, was that measurement confirmed, Mr. Mauser, by the gentleman you referred to, Mr.
Michael Bodie.
Fody?
Yeah.
Did he confirm that,
Yes,
that
Yes,
distance?
because he was at the property, he did all measurements.
Okay. Thank you.
When the deck was constructed originally, did you get permitting for that?
Yes.
Do you have any of those things now, the site plan or anything?
No idea.
It wouldn't, the strip wouldn't. No, and if there was, it would not be used as a lot line. boundary. Yeah, yeah. The question was, where is the strip that was alluded to that is being quote unquote allegedly rented? But when it comes for zoning purposes, that strip is a fiction. It will go to the lot line regardless of where that is. But overlapping it, there may be a fictional strip that goes on the other side that you had a license to use. But for purposes of your distance from the back of your house and then the deck, for the rear lot line, the strip doesn't enter in. Okay.
Are any other houses within the area that has something similar?
I've seen, additions. But not,
On your block,
not just a roof cover.
down the corner property on your block?
They have a screen-in porch, when next to us, they don't have anything, and
But would the screened-in porch be similar to location-wise as your proposed covered deck?
it would, yeah. Attached to the house.
And there's a roof over that?
Yes, there is. It says, I'm looking to have an A-frame. This is the one on the corner, it's a slanted roof. No, he's on. I got some weekends. 20 feet, not that big. Sorry, got them. Right, great. Take them for
Off the record.
There you go. Yeah. I don't know what the PRD meant. Usually PRD says that, the spirit. Yeah, and I think that's PRD. I know you. So the PRD typically says the second.
Which is not.
Right.
Your decks encroach 15 feet.
So I don't know off the top of my head what the PRD said as far as a rear yard setback. Fair.
The existing.
Okay,
Assuming is it's 40 feet. Apparently it's a PRD. What's that? I'm gonna talk about PRD.
okay, yeah, we're gonna go back on the record.
So this is a Fairwoods subdivision where you're located.
Right.
The board has had several applications before it for various things, not obviously the original subdivision built back in the 80s. But the board's understanding of this Fairwoods, it's called a planned residential development, which is conventionally referred to as a PRD. Okay. PRD is a special kind of development that gets approved. When it does get approved, the specialness of it means the plan itself creates your zoning setbacks, your zoning dimensions. And that's the flexibility that's in there. We don't have what that data is in front of us. We don't know what the PRD dimensions are. The B2 cluster, which is what your application was received under, which we'll process it under tonight, says your rear yard minimum setback has to be 40 feet. If it's 40 feet, your house is already non-conforming because it's less than that, right? It's 38 and a half. Right? So my point is, when we can take what's called judicial notice of the Fairwoods, and if there's a different figure in there that says rear yard setbacks in the Fairwoods PRD are supposed to be, let's say, 35 feet. Okay. Well, that may or may not affect the degree of relief you either need or get. Okay, so we will take that into account for purposes of considering your overall application. If I'm making myself. I know it's legal junk,
It will help us.
but right. We believe, because of the history the board has with other applications involving Fairwoods, that there's a chance we can discover that the setback is actually 40 feet. I'm not guaranteeing that, because I don't know it off the top of my head. Okay, but for purposes of how your application came in and was processed, that's how we'll treat it, at least in this hearing. But at large, the hearing will also include the record for the Fairwoods plan, which the township does have a copy. And we will make sure that whatever decision the board renders affects or takes that into account. Right?
So on the application, it asks for proposed encroachment of 17.5 feet. Is that what we're proposing is 17.5 feet, or is it 16 feet?
It's 16 feet.
Okay.
You do?
No, sir.
And your proposed roof is framed with shingles, or what's the covering?
The covering, this is a proprietary type roof. It is metal clad with a foam interior. It's approximately 4¼ inches thick.
Especially, it'll have gutters on it. Nice, supposed to be detailed. And we are going to match the shingles. We'll put the same shingles that on his roof on top of our proposed roof.
Thank you for that clarification. Anything else?
Good.
You have anything further?
Just want to finish my wife's pontoon.
Understood. Okay, thank you. Off the record. Go back on the record. We finished the deliberation, so I have a motion.
To the request for the testimony and plan shown on YouTube.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, you have relief tonight. You'll get a written decision within 45 days of today. But in the interim, you can speak to Mr. Gaiman and his department head, Mr. Conroy, about how you can still proceed with the project while the written decision is coming in. All right? Good luck. Good luck with your pontoon boat.
Thank you.
Hearing, or our next hearing tonight will be for the property at 544 Airy Avenue. Excuse me, Mr. Gable, will you please read the public notice and place the application on record?
The application of Tyler Spingler for the property located at 544 Airy Avenue, New Britain Township, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, identified as tax map parcel number 26675. Property is located in the RR Residential Zoning District. Property is improved with a detached single-family residential dwelling, use B1. The applicant proposes an attached garage addition to the existing dwelling. The applicant seeks a variance from New Britain Township zoning ordinance, section 27902B, to permit the attached garage addition to have a front yard setback of 29 feet, where the required minimum front yard setback is 50 feet.
Board exhibits are as follows. Exhibit B1 is the application. Included with the application was the current deed dated April 28, 2017, and a list of surrounding property owners. Exhibit B2 is a hand-drawn site plan. Mr. Springer, you can come up to the table. Exhibit B3 is a letter to the intelligencer forwarding public notice. Exhibit B4 is public notice that was just read into the record. Exhibit B5 is proof that that notice was advertised in the May 4th and May 11th, 2023 editions of the Intelligencer. Exhibit B6 is a letter to the applicant providing him notice of this hearing. Exhibit B7 is the township's list and map of property owners that are within 500 feet of the subject property. Exhibit B8 is an affidavit of mailing that notice of this hearing was mailed to the property owners listed on Exhibit B7. That notice was mailed on May 8th, 2023 by Ryan Gaiman. Exhibit B9 is an affidavit of posting. The notice of this hearing was posted on the property. That notice was posted on May 10th, 2023 by Ryan Gaiman. With that affidavit is a photograph of the property of the notice that was posted. Lastly, Exhibit B10 is the Bucks County viewer aerial, floodplain viewer aerial, and a map of the property.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Spindler, will you be sworn, please?
Please raise your hand. You swear the testimony about the Blvd, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so.
Yeah.
You state your name for the record.
Tyler Spindler.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You may plead your case.
I'm looking to encroach on my front setback of my property for a attached garage, roughly, I believe on the plan said 32 by 26 or 24. My home right now does not have a garage, and with Flint, run out of space. So, and I do have a lot of hobbies with the boat, and I got toys I tinker with. So pretty much is just asking to encroach on the front yard setback because I'm on a corner lot, technically the front yard, not a side yard,
You said the house has no garage,
no garage.
no attached, no garage, no detached,
There's a
anything.
shed in the backyard.
Okay.
I think once it was built in the '60s, there might have been a garage at every house. It must have went into the split level, must have went into the basement, but someone put a door and window and it's finished under there. So I believe when it was first built, it had a 1-car garage.
Which is now living space.
Yes,
And it was like that when you got it.
like that when I got it.
Will this garage be 1 floor, 2 floors? What will it be?
The single floor, but it's gonna have taller walls, about like 12 or 14 foot, I have a car lift I wanna put in the garage.
So it'll be a 1-story garage, but how high will it?
It would not exceed, my existing roof line now. It's probably, my peak of the roof line of my existing house is probably,
As long as it's attached to the house, which it says it's gonna be,
correct.
it can be as high as the house.
It's gonna be about a foot to 6 inches lower than my existing roof.
If it's accessory and detached, then
Mhm.
there's a different standard that applies.
Mhm.
But you say this is gonna be completely attached.
It's gonna be completely
Okay.
attached.
And are you also adding additional driveway? Or is that?
That
driveway already there?
was added on with gravel, and then it was not permitted. So I'm going through, while we go through this, Ryan told me I could file that permit violation, the zoning for that. So I believe it was only 200 square feet was extended.
Oh, is the driveway, what appears to be an extension on the plan, has that already been done?
Correct.
Okay, and it's stone right now?
It was paved. It was stone, so my father had the house. He added this gravel. Didn't know, I called the permit place probably 3-4 years ago about adding asphalt, and they said if it was already there with gravel, go ahead and pave it. I didn't get the letter because it was in my father's name, so this was news to me when I filed for this hearing.
Okay, so right now you're going through the calculations to see where you are as far as your impervious surface.
Correct.
Which would theoretically allow or retroactively permit the
Yes.
paving, okay. And you're aware that if paving now being factored in with the new garage footprint, if you're over
I believe I'm still under the impervious coverage
the rate,
with
the
everything.
the
Yeah.
limit,
Yes.
okay. I'm not, off the top of my head, I don't know what it is,
Mhm.
but if you're over,
Understood.
we'll see you again, right?
Yes,
Okay. He
But-
explained that to you?
yes,
Ryan did? Okay.
yes. But I believe the impervious coverage I am under.
Okay. Now, you may have to do stormwater management, even if you're under,
I understood. Over 1,000 square feet is
Right.
required for
then that,
stormwater management.
right, that's a separate review. This board has some tertiary jurisdiction, fringe jurisdiction over some stormwater stuff, but not the design of it, not the
Correct,
location
but
of it.
that gets filed with the permit, correct? Stormwater management,
That's
if
correct.
this gets approved.
That's correct. Yeah. Okay.
You,
No,
right?
corner lots are tough.
Corner lots are very tough.
Just so the board's aware that this is, it's basically, it's like your side, you treat it like your side for purposes of your. everyday
Driveways in
living.
the front, technically, yes,
You have no driveway access to
no access to the right side where it's going.
Lexington Ave.
Yeah, there's a swale, I guess the stormwater, then the road.
Okay. If this were like a conventional side yard, you would have a setback of only,
25 feet.
which would actually be, you'd be compliant.
So currently, the setback from Lexington Ave is 50 feet, is that correct?
I think it's a total of 63 feet
60,
from my house to is 63 feet on that plan. It's right above
or if I do that math right, it might be 61.
61.
61.
Yes.
You already have an existing deck.
Yes,
Is that wood? Is it concrete? Is it?
it's just a fresh treated deck.
The only concern sometimes that townships have is that the garages, whether they're attached or detached, don't become homes of businesses, if you know what I mean. So, you know, you don't plan on running any business out of here. Right?
No, the only, I'm a contractor, we'll just store my tools.
Right. You can store your tools, you can store your truck, but you're not.
I'm not building or doing any works out of the,
You're not having any of the job site meetings in
No.
there. No, okay. All right, just so you're clear on that, on those.
On your plan you submitted here, the
Mhm.
plan here. Can you tell us what is this little rectangle? It says, or I guess it's supposed to be a square, 15 by 15. I can't quite read.
oh, that's a. Where,
Paper.
It's to your deck.
Pavers?
no, it's the paver patio.
Existing,
There was existing deck and a paver patio.
so is the existing deck is 26.5 by 16.5 and paved patio.
15 by 15.
And a 12 by 24 shed.
Are you aware of any houses that do not have a 50-foot setback from the street? In nearby,
Nearby that has.
less than 50 foot,
From the side yard to their.
yeah,
Um,
like off Lexington.
there is a corner house that had a garage where they enter from.
Oh, for Lexington,
They're same setup as me, but it's the next street over. They have a garage where they actually pull off, and that's one house that seems closer. That has a side garage, so
you don't know what that setback is?
no.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Poplar Rd. Back on record for just a second.
Do you know what the distance from the proposed setback would be to the swale?
Roughly 15 to 12 feet away. And then it dips down. And then the swale probably 5 feet, 6 feet wide. It just goes up and comes right back up, real small. But from my proposed garage to where it starts going down, is about 15 feet, 12 feet.
And beyond that, the character of that neighborhood in general is flat. Is your property in general very flat?
Yeah, I'm at the bottom of the hill and we don't have any stormwater systems in our neighborhood.
Right.
So all the front yards have a slight little curve in the front and it trickles down. It hits my swale and then goes out to County Line Road. And then it runs throughout the neighborhood.
Neighborhood's probably one of the oldest in the township. It might be the oldest.
That's exactly like the neighborhood I grew up.
Well, it's either,
In
well,
the 60s,
you're,
correct?
it's either, well, it's either, no, Brittany Farms is after, it's either this one or Stoller Heights. Those are the two that, when I look at old zoning maps, they're the only ones that are on there. It's County Line Park, which is yours,
Mhm.
and Stoller Heights. Now there's sprinkled here and there, not like a subdivision.
It's okay, we'll go back off the record.
Stormwater wasn't a big concern back then.
Go back on the record. Like the easy part. All right, we've finished our deliberations. Do I have a motion?
To approve the application.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Sprinkley, you'll get a written decision, within 45 days. You've got, your application has been verbally approved tonight. The written decision will come out within 45 days. And as I indicated to Mr. Snavely before, you can still speak to Mr. Gaiman about how you can still proceed with your project while the while the written decision is, in the works.
Okay.
All right, good luck with the
All right.
project.
Thanks very much. Have a good night.
Tonight will be for the property of 4272 County Line Road. Come on down.
Yeah, one game. Let's do it.
I wanted to be a smart aleck. That's to go off the record to reprimand your attorney.
Appreciate it.
Fun with it.
Ryan,
Yes. Mr. Gaming, will you please read a public notice and place the application on record?
The application of McDonald's USA LLC for the property located at 4272 County Line Road, New Britain Township, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, identified as tax map parcel number 265495. Property is located in the C2 Commercial Zoning District. Property is improved with a non-residential building containing McDonald's fast food restaurant use with parking areas, drive aisles, and a drive-through facility, use J7. The applicant proposes a second order point and lane for the existing drive-through with an additional menu board and drive-through related signage. The applicant seeks variance from the following sections of the New Britain Township zoning ordinance. A from 27-1302B to permit an impervious surface ratio of 82.3% on the property, where the maximum ratio permitted by right is 65%, and the property presently has a ratio of 81.49%. B from section 27-305J7B2 to permit a fourth menu board that is 10.1 square feet in area, where only 2 menu boards are permitted, and the maximum permitted area of a menu board is 20 square feet. And C from section 27-2606B2 and section 27-2610F1 to permit an additional electronic message center sign, fourth menu board, where only 1 electronic message center sign is permitted. And D from section 27-2606B1 and section 27-2610F1 to permit the additional electronic message center sign in addition to, instead of in lieu of, the new freestanding signs for the expanded drive-through.
Thank you, sir. Paul.
They are as follows. Exhibit B1 is the application. Included with the application was the deed dated February 14th, 2006, an attachment outlining the relief requested and a list of adjacent property owners. Exhibit B3 was 3 sheets of a larger plan set. Sheet 1 was a boundary plan from June 30th, 2022, prepared by Control Point Associates. Sheets 2 and 3 were a site plan and a signage plan. Those were dated July 15th, 2022, last revised August 5th, 2022, and those were prepared by Buller Engineering. Exhibit B3 is a letter to the intelligencer. Exhibit B4 is the public notice that was just read into the record. Exhibit B5 is proof that that notice was published in the May 4th and May 11th editions of the intelligencer. Exhibit B6 is a letter to the applicant and their attorney providing them notice of this hearing. Exhibit B7 is the township's list and map of property owners of record that are within 500 feet of the property that's the subject of the application. Exhibit B8 is an affidavit of mailing that notice of this hearing was mailed to the property owners listed on Exhibit B7. That notice was mailed on May 8th, 2023 by Ryan Gaiman. Exhibit B9 is an affidavit of posting. The notice of this hearing was posted on the property. That posting was done on May 10th, 2023 by Ryan Gaiman. And with that affidavit is a photograph of the actual posting on the property. Exhibit B10 is the Bucks County floodplain viewer and floodplain viewer aerial and map of the property. And lastly, Exhibit B11 is a prior decision of the board involving this property that's the subject of the application. That decision is dated October 15th, 2020.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
The board exhibits.
Thank you. And who will be testifying this evening? Okay. Will you all be sworn, please?
Testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your names for the record.
Adam Citrullo,
Please spell your last name, please.
CITRULLO.
And you, sir,
Mike Abbonizio, ABBONIZIO.
You said your first name was Mike?
Yes.
Case.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Leonard Altieri. I'm an associate at the law firm of Claire Harrison, located in Center City, Philadelphia, representing the applicant tonight, McDonald's USA LLC, for the property located at 4275 County Line Road. What the applicant is seeking this evening is relief as set forth in the application and the addendum in connection with the construction of an additional drive-through lane at the existing McDonald's restaurant located at 4275 County Line Road. The property is located in the New Britain Village Square Shopping Center, typically the corner of County Line Road and West Butler Ave. The property is currently located in the C2 Commercial Zoning District. This additional drive-through lane is consistent nationwide with McDonald's modernization plan that they're doing throughout all of their restaurants across the country. As will be testified in greater detail by the engineer, Mr. Citrullo, this additional drive-through lane will provide additional capacity to address the anticipated preference of customers to utilize the drive-through rather than the park and enter the restaurant. Will also be testified in greater detail that the addition of the second drive-through lane will prevent the backlog and stacking within the existing aisles and reduce the need for all-street parking in connection with the restaurant. While prior to this meeting starting, this hearing starting, excuse me, I did present to the board an application, or excuse me, a exhibit packet tabbed 1 through 6. And I'll just identify these for the record. The first tab is the addendum to the zoning hearing board application. Second tab is the deed. The third tab is the curriculum vitae or resume of Mr. Sprullo. Tab 4 is the aerial exhibit. Tab 5 is the existing conditions. Tab 6 needs to be revised a little bit. That is just going to be our signage plan. And tab 7 is the loose leaf piece of paper that I gave you, which is the proposed site improvements and site plan. The reason for that is if you look at the existing site plan on tab 6, there were 2 things that we added. One has to do with the revision of the parking spaces, which we'll get into in greater detail. And then there was also a boundary line that we wanted to show the plan itself. It's here.
These will all be marked A 1, 2, 3, 7.
And as was noted by your zoning officer, we are here this evening for 4 variances in relation to this proposed improvement. One has to do, and we'll get into much greater details as this really goes into this, but one has to do with the existing impervious coverage that we have. It is an existing nonconformity that we are doing a minimal increase amount to. And then the other 3 are all related to the signage. It relates to the second drive-through.
Well,
So-
the impervious isn't a non-conformity, just by variance.
My understanding is that it is an existing nonconformity.
No. The
Okay.
prior ratio was. The existing, what's there right now was allowed by variance 3 years ago.
Okay.
And now you're just going up again, so you know that, so.
Correct. With that being said, I will call on Mr. Citrullo. He has already been sworn, but he will be the first to testify. Before we get into that, Adam, can you, if you've already done, just state your name for the record,
Sure, my name is Adam Citrullo,
and where are you currently employed?
Bowler and
Are you a professional engineer in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
yes,
How long have you been a professional engineer?
since 2020.
And have you been admitted as an expert witness for zoning hearing boards across the Commonwealth?
Yes,
And are you the one who designed these plans?
yes,
And you have familiarity with the plans?
yes.
If there's no objection from the board, I'd like to have him entered as an expert witness.
For civil engineering? Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So we will turn to exhibit A4, which is the aerial. Adam, if you just want to start orienting the board to where we are.
Sure, so as a description of the existing property improvements, it is an existing McDonald's restaurant with a tandem drive-through located in the New Britain Village Square with frontage along 2 streets. That's County Line Road and West Butler Avenue. There are 48 existing parking spaces. The drive-through, as I noted prior, is what's called a tandem drive-through, in which there is a single drive-through lane with 2 order points serving a single lane. Additionally, there are 3 full access driveways to the site. 2 are off the internal shopping center drive aisle, and 1 is from the adjacent back lot. There are 3 existing pieces of drive-through equipment, 2 outdoor display menu boards, and 1 pre-browse menu board, in addition to the 2 order point speakers.
In addition to the
2 order point speakers.
And moving to exhibit A6. Or excuse me, which is now referred to as A7, I apologize, but so that loose leaf piece of paper that I just handed to the board. Can you explain to the board what it is that we'd like to do?
Sure, so the applicant proposes to upgrade the existing drive-through facilities by constructing an additional drive-through. Construction of the additional drive-through lane will result in the loss of 5 net off-street parking spaces. The ordinance requires 41 parking spaces. The current site has 48 parking spaces. The proposed plan calls for 43 spaces, so a total of 5 spots will be lost, but is still above what is required. The loss of spaces occur to the north of the lot along the outside of the drive aisle behind the building. All 5 spaces proposed to be removed are located in this area.
Are located
In this area. Basically, the 88 parking spaces will remain unchanged as part of this proposal. An additional pre-ground menu board and overhead clearance bar proposed as part of the drive-through upgrades to support the additional lane. A new order point of with identifying signage and canopies are proposed. The order points will have canopies over them, which necessitates the clearing. Additionally, a sidewalk is proposed along the front of the building. At this point, I'd like to provide an overview of variances requested.
Let him ask you a question about that. Now you're just reading what you got in front of you. So let your attorney ask you a question.
So Adam, as you were starting to get into, with regards to the variances, let's start with the impervious coverage variance first, which for the record, again, is section 271305B. To permit the maximum impervious coverage of 82.3%, where the maximum is currently 60, well, which is 65%. Can you explain what it is that we are doing here?
Sure. So the subject property has prior approved variance consisting of 81.2% or 36,738 square feet, whereas 65% is otherwise permitted. In connection with this application, the applicant will be seeking a minor variance from the existing prior approved variance permit 82.3% or 37,238 square feet, which is an increase of 500 square feet.
Now that impervious that we are increasing, what is that related to? What is the necessitating the need for us to increase that impervious coverage?
Sure. So there's 2, let's call it main areas associated with this increase in impervious. One is associated with, I'm going to call it the existing landscape island. By the entrance of the drive-through, it is getting smaller to facilitate vehicle maneuvers around the new proposed second drive-through lane. Additionally, there's a sidewalk proposed, as I noted prior, to the front of the building to allow pedestrian path from the, let's call it, southern door across the front of the restaurant to the main parking area.
Now, the next ordinance, or excuse me, the next variance has to deal with the electronic message center sign, what we refer to as the pre-browse menu and the freestanding sign, which is the order here canopy and the clearance bar. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I don't think that there's much that needs to be discussed on that, but if you want to just explain to the board where they're going to be, or show to the board where that's going to be on the site plan.
So this, if you can see, if you want me to come close, I certainly can, is where, let's call it, the menu boards are ultimately proposed. There are 2 menu boards, let's call them the main menu boards, located towards the front of the drive-through. You have the order points immediately after, and towards the entrance of the drive-through, you have the pre-browse with the overhead clearance bar immediately before that.
And these pre-browse menu boards and the overhead clearance, is that a standard model for McDonald's?
That is correct.
Okay. The next one with the next variance we're requesting is from section 27-20606B2 with regards to the 1 additional electronic message center sign, which will create 4 electronic message center signs, whereas only 1 is otherwise permitted. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I believe that you, and I apologize if you said this, but you pointed out where that's going to be on that site plan as well.
That's correct.
Okay. And then the last ordinance, which is section 27-26-10F1, also has to do with the number of electronic message boards on the property, correct?
That's correct.
How many signs are on the property today?
So today there are 5 total signs.
But with regards to the drive-through, is there only 3?
That's correct.
Okay, and those 3, what are we doing with them on the property?
So all 3 are being relocated as part of this application.
So in addition to these 3, how many more will we have?
1.
I'm sorry, total signage for the drive-through.
So we'll have the 1 additional menu board, and then the overhead canopy clearance wall.
So altogether, it's 7 signs, is that correct?
Correct.
Because there's 2 of them on each one. Perfect. Do you believe that if these variances are granted, that they pose a threat to the safety, morals, health, or general welfare of the community?
They'll pose a threat.
To the safety, morals, health, or general welfare of the community?
No,
In your opinion, do you think that if the variances are granted, it will create injury to the public interest?
no,
Do you believe that the variance requests will afford minimum relief and will afford relief and request at least modified possible?
yes,
And is it in your professional opinion that the proposed 43 parking spots are sufficient for the McDonald's restaurant?
yes.
Even though we're not necessarily doing anything with regards to a variance on that. I don't have any other questions for Mrs. Trullo. If the board has any. I do have the franchisee operator here who I'm gonna call to just kind of go into detail a little bit more with the percentage of sales that we have through the drive-through as opposed to in person, which is necessitating this change, as well as to offer to the board if there's any operation questions.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No.
I guess just the signs are basically gonna be identical, but for 2 lanes versus 1 lane. Or at least for the drive space.
That's correct.
Do have a question.
Oh, so the drive-through now, it's a single lane, and what happens is cars will come in through the bank parking lot, or they'll come in parallel to the McDonald's, and they'll sort of alternate merge, if you will. They don't always alternate merge, some cut off of it. But will the traffic flow stay that way, or are you now going to direct the cars coming through the bank parking lot into the outer lane and the cars that come parallel to McDonald's restaurant through the inner lane? Or will they be able to take the lane of least resistance?
Sure. So the plan allows for the, let's call it lane of least resistance, if you will, to be taken. That is afforded because let's call it the start of the curb island is, let's call it a vehicle past the turn. So though the plan may direct vehicles, let's call it vehicles coming from the shopping center parallel with the restaurant, they need generally be, let's call it directed towards the inner drive lane.
Will there be signage directing it, like stay in your lane?
No, because ultimately they are afforded the ability to go to another one if one is, say, longer, which really only affords the ability for what's called the inner drive-through lane.
And will that ability be lost when you get to the overhang signage, the overhang that's? Like, where do I lose the ability to change lane?
Sure, so the lanes merge, they merge after the order points and then menu board. Is that what you're referring to?
No.
After the order point.
No, sorry, I wasn't clear. If the. Let's see if I can phrase this right. So. Will there be a delineation line like something maybe before I get to the end of the building wall that will force me to go into the inner or the outer lane?
So the only, let's say, physical barrier is after the building. This line here is a pavement stripe. So you will be, let's call it, in the lane once you are past the edge of the building. But there's nothing before that that ultimately, let's say, forces you to stay in one versus the other beyond the stripe, the pavement stripe.
Okay, so that inner island does not sort of stretch up and run parallel to the building, that just stays with the curve of the
That's
building.
exact.
Okay. Okay,
For the northwest parking area, can you show me the pedestrian flow?
Or you're referring to this parking area or
No, the one to the left, that would be. That's there.
this parking?
Yeah.
Right. So in the existing condition,
5 angled spots there.
Yeah, so in the existing condition, there's some angled spaces in which, let's say the pedestrians will ultimately be able to walk across the drive-through and onto the sidewalk adjacent to the building. So in the proposed condition, ultimately those angled spaces, they'll walk across the drive-through in the same manner as before.
So is there a pedestrian walkway across the drive-through?
Currently, the only attaching, let's call it this specific parking area, there's no delineated walkway. They would be walking through the drive aisle as they are.
But is there a walkway in the? If cars put this close together, let the record show I'm holding up about 6 inches apart. Are they supposed to squeeze between the bumpers? Or is there a pedestrian marked area where the cars are not supposed to encroach?
There's an existing crosswalk connecting the ADA parking spaces, so one could conceivably walk to that and cross at that point. That's indicated immediately before the
I
drive-through.
wonder where it is. It's theoretically what it's supposed to be now.
And as a civil engineer, is safe design?
Well, it is a safe design. Ultimately, you will always have pedestrian interaction with a drive-through in all sort of scenarios that one might conceive or design associated with drive-throughs. It's something you cannot avoid, is the reality. It's certainly expected. You know, if you look at a typical, I would call this certainly a typical design, you're always going to have pedestrian interaction, pedestrians crossing the drive-through. At some point, there's beyond providing, you know, a physical barrier through the drive-through and then subsequently not really providing a drive-through at that point. There's really no way to do that.
Well, with the current, with what you have there and the ADA marked walk path. And the delineated drive-through, they're not crossing quote unquote through the drive-through. They're crossing in between cars if the drive-through happens to extend longer than the allotted number of cars on the plan. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Okay, so it's not technically the drive-through as delineated. Is it correct for me to say as designed? Or is the drive-through? Is that mythical, if you will? Is that just the drive-through extends as long as the cars are there?
Well, admittedly in the existing condition, if you will, the operations are such that I think we've all seen it, right? The queuing ends up being pretty inefficient. So you'll see very, very long lines. The intent of the design associated with the side-by-side drive-through is to alleviate that, because ultimately it is a more efficient drive-through, because that's obviously certainly a concern for us and certainly a concern for McDonald's. You don't want that to occur. So this is, you know, part of their upgrades that they upgrade the restaurants.
Again, professional opinion, does it, and I know nothing about this. Is it safer for them to have passage to the sidewalk in the shortest distance possible? Where they wouldn't be jumping islands like in the curved area? So I don't understand the thinking that takes them, continues through 2 routes of traffic that merge all the way to the ADA walkway to get onto the sidewalk. How is that a safer state than some other walkway?
Sure. So if I can just,
Again, your professional opinion. I'm not the designer here.
yeah, I guess I'm just having a tough time exactly trying to word.
Can I just give real world?
You've sworn, sir, and so
Yeah.
I'll leave it up to your attorney to decide how you all want to run the case.
Hold on, real quick. Do you want to add anything?
The only thing from that perspective I want to describe is the existing versus proposed condition. In the existing condition, it's operating such that pedestrians would be walking, let's say, in the area in question, if you will, walking across, let's call it the, essentially both drive-through lanes in this condition, or potentially prior to the merge. Let's say there's really through the drive aisle. In the proposed conditions, though that is allowed, there's additionally a striped area to what's called outside of the drive aisle to provide some path beyond walking immediately further.
I just wanted to make a comment on that back parking lot. It's not used. You know, part of my statement, these gentlemen asked me about drive-through percentage. 80% is through the drive-through. A mix of 20% is those that come in or delivery or mobile order pay. So I'm there obviously a lot. That back parking lot, it's a waste. People don't go back there. People don't park there. Right? It's just what I see every day.
Yeah, well, you answered a question that was in the back of my head earlier that I didn't feel see the ask, but I'm like, does anybody actually park there? I just, when we look at,
No.
right, but we're looking at, when we consider this, because they're parking spaces, we have to allow for the possibility that someone's parking. Right? It could be, you could operate that business and determine that your employees are to park back there. Okay, and then they could come in mid-shift when the drive-through is in operation. And so now, regardless of whether they're a customer or employee, it's still pedestrian traffic. So we have to consider that. So, but I appreciate that, because believe me, I thought, does anybody actually go back there? But
Yeah,
I could see where I would want my employees back there, right? To make the parking more convenient for my customers. If I were the proprietor, and I'm not, so you do you. My thought is that we're looking at this, we're widening the area of the drive-throughs. We're constricting what is otherwise pedestrian traffic in a sense, taking it through the convergence of two drive paths, right? One in from the bank and one in from what is essentially the entrance road into the shopping center. And it's at that time when I would question the pedestrian traffic and what is safe for the pedestrians, because that is the biggest glaring thing that I see here is I want to keep in my hypothetical, which is irrelevant to potential reality, some employee or somebody who's walking in there safe, because they're going to be walking essentially in the middle of an intersection. And that's why this line is questioning. So that's why I asked, in your professional opinion, is it the safest design essentially for the pedestrians?
So in my professional opinion, the current design is a safe design. I understand your concern. I'll speak for if there's an amendment.
What I was gonna say is if the board wants to add as a condition of this approval, additional signage, if the board wants to add as a condition, some sort of markings on the pavement, my client, I think, would be open to doing something like that. We've done that in prior McDonald's, where they might have concerns, not on the same situation, but with regards to just accessing the building. So if the board wants as a condition of approval us to do some signage or additional striping, McDonald's has done that in the past, and I don't think it's going to be anything that would prohibit us from doing it for this application as well.
Well, I'll defer to any conference you have with your client. And before I go again, I'm not a professional here. It just begs the question about pedestrian safety. That's all.
And I'll give you again just some real world. We have 4 restaurants, 3 of which have side by sides in them already. This is our 4th one that we're going to get through and done. But they've been in for years, and same type of merge, same type of it's not, these folks don't, our customers do not come in fast. As they're in line, they do creep. So again, real world, we have 3 other locations, same type of things are going when nobody really requires us to do anything.
That's all I have.
So from this design, currently the dumpster area is in that northwest corner, correct? Delivery of some McDonald's deliveries.
Yeah.
where do they, where would they go into this, how would that look in this new design?
So it will, so they're gonna pull in straight, just get my bearings first, I just think that. So they'll come in straight. And go right out this entrance. They don't go around the building. They'll-
Like, try to be as descriptive as you can for the synopsis.
Well, they'll, again, I don't know northeast, south and west on the maps, but they'll pull in straight on the side of the building. They'll pull on up and they'll drop. They got some type of a lift gate and they drop their product and then they'll go, as they always do, they'll go right out this entrance right here. So we've,
And that's the bank entrance?
yes,
The bank parking lot?
yep, that's correct. They'll go right out the back entrance. Yeah. And that's currently what they're doing now. So really nothing changes.
Yeah, and that doesn't interfere with the drive-through at all, though, right?
No.
That's just curiosity, right?
Yep.
So, okay.
And they're usually on all hours, correct?
Yes, they do. We're not, our drivers are not allowed on the peak. So we usually get it first thing in the morning or late.
The removal of the 5 spaces does not affect any. I mean, I see what you currently have, what is being proposed, but it doesn't show on here how many are required.
If you look at that, sorry,
Maybe I can't see it. Yeah.
There's 40.
Glasses, I can't see it. I apologize.
I find it helps to stack the glasses. Works like a charm.
Said there was an overhead crossbar that will be in the lane. What is the height of that?
It's 8.8 feet 6 inches in clearance. The total height is 11.17 feet.
Can I ask just, and I'm naive, what, I mean, I know they have them at other drive-through locations. What is the purpose? Is it to restrict a truck or a car high enough that they wouldn't be able to do that turning radius?
So the, as part of the proposal, there's new order here speakers which have canopies on them. So when a customer's ordering, they have some protection from rain. So the overhead clearance bars are to prevent someone from essentially vehicle that's too tall from impacting those. They would impact the clearance bar.
It's expected.
It's not what I was expecting either. But it's hard to see the canopies on this plan. So,
you, on the signage plan, the canopies and the clearance bar are shown.
I haven't stacked my glasses. We do that.
Just for a point of reference, we'll be able to see what they were gonna look like.
So just so I'm reading this correctly, all the darker gray shaded areas propose new asphalt paving?
That's correct. But it is new in the sense that it's repaving. Could be existing asphalt that's being torn out and then installed. Or it could just be new paving on top of, for instance, the area I noted here where this island is being removed, it could be existing landscape.
So that's where the increase is coming from for the ratio, that area up there.
This area and additional sidewalk as well.
That was my understanding of.
Yeah.
What's, is green, it's going to hard surface.
Proposal is to increase impervious by about 500 square feet, correct?
Any drainage issues on the property right now? I mean, you're almost at 100%. What you're at 90,
They're right next to the base.
and yeah, the basin is to your southwest. And is that where everything goes?
Yep, no problems.
Okay, thank you.
What is the rectangular gray striped area that would be in the bottom left, I guess you might call that?
So this area is an additional new pavement or additional pavement proposed, and additionally, there's some gore striping there.
What kind of striping?
Gore striping, pavement striping is on.
And what's the gore striping for?
So the striping is there to delineate the difference between the bypass lane and the adjacent parking, and is simply striping such that prevents vehicles from impacting, let's say, a curb dot.
And you referenced bypass lane. Can you explain to the board what a bypass lane is? Can you show someone on that lane?
Sure, so the bypass lane is this lane that continues to the plan west behind the drive-through, which permits a vehicle to bypass the drive-through such that there's no situation with the vehicle, let's say, stuck within the drive-through. Bypass it and get out through the existing lane.
Mr. Ebenezer, I got a question about that.
Yes.
So you're going one lane, 2 lanes, back to 1 lane.
Correct.
Trends seem to also be going 1 lane, 2 lanes, 2 lanes. Starting to see that at some other restaurants, but is that something that you foresee coming, and then there would be a issue of not having a bypass lane?
I do not. We ask McDonald's all the time, what's next? And nothing has ever come to us as far as the dual lane all the way around. But you're right, our competitors are doing it. But I don't foresee that in the future.
You're a little constricted with space, because I think that bank
That's
goes,
correct. That curve, and it does drop right off into the base.
right.
Right.
So just as a sidebar, then, you said 80% of your business is now drive-through driven,
Correct.
20%, then I guess it's still sit down. And that's just by, that's by revenue, that's not by
And
profit,
it
or,
could be delivery. It could be Uber Eats or
Yeah.
DoorDash, folks coming in, get food and out the door they go.
how many excess square footage do you have, how much extra square footage do you have inside that restaurant for table space that you really don't use?
It's a ton.
Okay,
Yeah, we sit there and go, it's a beautiful dining room, but the past 3 years with COVID, people are, there's new routines and they're not coming in anymore. So we have to take it to them, delivery, faster drive-throughs, different
it
technology.
must be old school, because when I was a kid, it's all you wanted to do was go into McDonald's.
It's really changed. We do a lot of.
What's that?
Free cell phone.
No,
Yeah,
that's just-
we do a lot with schools and sports, and you try and get teams and schools, and it's difficult. Again.
I also like the old exterior design. I also like the old exterior design of the building, it's better than the gray.
We hear that a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, and I joke with McDonald's about, we get 3 options. Before, we used to get the design, what the building, what the color was, what the interior looked like, so we could kind of put our own little, but hey, Donna likes this, Mike likes that. Now, I joke, it's ugly, uglier, uglier. So, hopefully nobody from McDonald's sees that, but that's what we hear from our customers who are like, Mike, it's really not nice.
I think, look, this is all personal opinion, it's
Yes.
irrelevant to your application. I understand.
No,
The question about the double drive was a legitimate question.
Yeah,
At least, of course.
yeah, we get all kinds of literature, restaurant news, and we see what our competitors are doing.
Okay.
And it's funny because when we tell our crew and our managers, hey, we're gonna try and put that side by side in, we gotta go to zoning and things like that. They always say, they reference, I can't say it, but they say, oh, the guy up the street has that, and they name our competitor, and they're right, the competitors have beat us to it. Right.
Well, if you think I asked a lot of questions about pedestrians now, if you have 2 lanes all the way through,
Yeah,
you ain't heard nothing yet.
okay, not a problem.
So. Okay, do you have anything else?
If approved, when do you expect this construction would begin? For the end of the year or?
Yes, yeah, by the end of the week, that depends,
on McDonald's, you know, they would have to go do their due process and we'd have to go through bidding and things like that. But honestly, I would like to get it in by the end of the year because it makes great business sense. So the sooner the better for Donna and I.
So my question, so currently you have 3 signboards, 1 pre-board and 2 speaker boards, right? Correct.
Yes, I can answer that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to go to 7 from the 3. So there's adding 4, but you're only adding 1 lane, so.
They're adding
I'm
one
trying-
additional pre-menu board, so there's 4 electronic signs, and then there's going to be 3. Like order here, drive through. On those canopies, those are the other 3 things that the township has designated as signs.
Right.
Yeah, it's total size. Confusing.
I was multiplying the current boards. To the, well, what it. To 2 lanes, and it didn't come out to 7, so that's why I was, and I didn't see the. The signboards.
All right, nobody said there was gonna be math to do.
I'm no math tonight.
Okay.
Is there any preliminary plans? How would this affect the drive-through and pedestrians when this is being constructed? Because you're still planning on staying open, correct, when this happens?
Yeah, well, we've done it both ways. So some of them, we've closed for 3 days to do demo. And then other folks are like, hey, you know what, we have enough room to figure that out to keep you open. So I've seen it both ways.
It'll get fleshed out, you know, hopefully we get approval tonight, and once that gets processed, Adam and the engineering team will flesh that all out.
You said. Mike, you own 3 other locations?
Correct.
Is one of them English Village?
No,
All right, because they appear to be doing this same work down there. The drive-through is closed. You
Okay.
can't access, you can get into the parking lot. But it looks like a ghost town, because if that drive-through is open. There's nobody going in there. I tried to take my son in there the other day and. I said, well, let's just park and go in. He says, no, let's go to the other one. Let's go to yours and go to the drive-through. But to your point is, drive-through looks like it shuts down, but the restaurant stays open.
correct.
Okay.
Oh, sitting there.
In your seat.
Yeah.
They had come blocking there's one drive access that comes out of the parking lot there. And they had it combed off, couldn't get in, you had to go in the other one.
Anything else?
For the record, that was a terrible design.
Yeah, I would agree with the record.
Our township.
Yeah, right.
Our county. Our county.
Let's get back on track here. Yeah,
The only thing I would,
further?
Chairman, is that it's
They'll be received. Okay.
Get in trouble if I say. Thank you, we'll go off the record. Record sheet.
Mr. Ebenezer, I have one question.
Yes,
Were you the owner of this property, which may lead to others? Were you the owner of the franchise back in 2020 when the two other, one additional menu board sign was installed?
yes.
Okay, so you're familiar with that decision? You have a copy of that?
I'm not.
I mean, it was this engineering firm that did the work.
Yeah, I'm sure they can, we have to.
All right,
yeah,
but
I'm sure.
from nothing physical out there has changed as the description of the property and the building and everything else that is set forth in that decision as we sit here today. It's pretty much the same.
Yes, that's
So the
correct.
board can rely on all of the facts and representations and testimony from that decision in rendering a decision on this one.
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I'll go back off the record. Are we good with that? Okay. Thank you. Yes. All right, we'll go back on the record. We completed our deliberations, so do I have a motion?
Work with the applicant to all or consider appropriate protectional signals, signage, traffic markings, etc., to ensure pedestrian safety.
Right.
Do I have a motion?
Do I have a second?
Second,
We got that. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Okay. You have approval conditionally.
Sorry.
You'll get a written decision within 45 days of today, and you've done this before, you know this drill, but your attorney can explain it. Thank you for coming. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And for the record, McDonald's used to be the only place to go for kids' parties, but I didn't want to continue the tangent any longer. Yep. That was me.
We have an indoor at Bridge Party.
Oh, that's yours, the one in Richboro?
Yeah, this town's starting to get folks, I'm gonna have 1 or 2 weeks.
It was like,
Pre-COVID, we,
I grew up in Newtown. I was the first one. You didn't have to drive an hour.
yeah.
This hearing is adjourned.
Thanks.
And